Welcome back to the Nightlife Podcast, Season 4, Episode 12. Guys, long time no see. I have missed you. I hope you have missed me as well. Anyway, pandemic, a lot of stuff going on, definitely. But I really missed you guys. I really wanted to come back. I've been getting a lot of messages from people saying that they want the podcast to come back. And you know what? I'm not going to keep it away from you. So I'm actually from a new home studio. This is the first interview I'm going to be doing this year, for sure. And I'm not going to be stopping. You're going to be seeing me here every week, as you used to. And it is also the first time that I use a different process from the way that I used to do things. I'm interviewing somebody a little different from the usual as well. And, also using a system, something called PodMatch. Anybody out there who's doing podcasts, you definitely got to check this out because they find people that could be interesting to have in your show that you would probably not find yourselves, as well as find you podcasts where they can interview you if you're interested in being on any podcast, and I do encourage all of you to do so. All right, so anyway, guys, without further ado, if I remember how to do this, let me bring in my guest this week, Mr. Josh Kelley. How are you, my man?
How's it going, man? Doing good. How's life in Miami, right?
Miami, man, Miami. Where are you at, actually?
North of Seattle. I'm roughly halfway between Canada, Vancouver, BC, and Seattle.
Okay.
So we're actually having nice weather right now. What my neck of the woods is known for, if you've ever seen any pictures of tulips in the United States, it almost certainly came from where I live. We're all about tulips, and so we've got thousands upon thousands of cars visiting to see our tulips right now.
Okay. That's nice. So
They're pretty.
what we're known for over here, so I'm not gonna brag.
A lot of great stuff.
And a lot of people
Yeah.
talk about oranges and key lime pie, but no, those are not the main things that that people
The
come to know.
nightlife of Miami is legendary.
Yes, it
Without
definitely
doubt.
is. I mean, it's awful. You know what I mean? Like to see how it's been affected. With this whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure some of the some things are going to be good in the end, in the long run. I believe that some of the changes might have been necessary, and people may calm down a bit, in a way. But anyway, the point is, I'm glad that things are coming back to normal, that we're opening again. Um,
Yeah.
our state has been open for a while, but the
Yeah.
city of Miami and Miami-Dade County has been having a curfew, a midnight curfew.
Oh,
Yes, the thing is this. If you ask people that don't live in Miami and you tell them that we have a curfew, they will tell you, what are you talking about? I see you guys on Instagram. I see social media, and Miami's going nuts with the parties, with the boats, with the, parties till 5 in the morning and all those kinds of things. And yes, the reality is that since it's been, prohibited, and it is most people's, way of living, they've found ways to just get around it, and
yeah.
continue to do so. So the reason you're here mainly is because of your bartending expertise,
Yeah.
right? Tell me a little bit about that. What did you do as bartending? Do you continue to do it?
So, kind of, my story is a little bizarre. That I was actually pastor for about 15 years. Then I wrote a book with the church I was pastoring. We had to close because it just shrunk down to where wasn't sustainable. And so we just packed up our family in a car, in a minivan actually, and drove around the country for 8 months, including Miami, stayed in the Keys for a week and loved it out there. And then I came back from that and it's like, okay, I need to find a real job now because traveling is not a job. And I didn't want to be a pastor anymore. And there's a lot of jobs you can do just to make money. Being a pastor isn't one of them. Being a politician, being a doctor, a counselor, you should be in those because you believe in it. And I still believe, I'm still a Christian, but just in terms of that, being a pastor just wasn't of interest. And really, writing is what was what I fall in love with. But I need to make money, and I've always enjoyed people. I knew I needed a job that involved me with people. You
Right.
put me in a factory, I'm going to shoot myself at the end of every shift. I had a buddy who was been in the industry for years, and he kind of took me under his wing. I started as a bar back at a little bar out here in Skagit County, and then became bartender. And just from there, found it's a fun job. I mean, it's work without a doubt. It's a lot of work, but I mean, you all know that just that thrill of when you have the crowds. I mean, we're much smaller bars, so a lot of places I'm at are smaller than anything you'd have there. But like the nights where you're the last bartender, you send the previous one home because everything's dead, and the place fills up with Navy because we had a fairly big Navy base not far from us. So a lot of pilots, a lot of they call this the Anacortes Club. We're the officers of the club off base, and so my bar filled up with all these fly boys who want their drinks, and I'm running solo. I'm grabbing the cook and making him. All of a sudden now he's my bar back, and just the fun of that, and you walk away with some money, no doubt, So there's a lot of it that I enjoyed. It was a really fun industry, and I was able to provide for my family with it. But then COVID hit, and that kind of evaporated. Washington, I think, we're the second state to close things down.
But let me back up first a little bit because using the two words in the same sentence, pastor and bartender, is a first for me. So before so how do you start with pastorship? First of all, what took you in that direction?
So I've been a Christian all my life. I love Jesus, and I love teaching. I love training. I love taking care of people, and I love learning. And so it's kind of something I not quite fell into, but kind of as I was training, biblical languages was my thing. I was into studying Greek. I'm a nerd, and from there just realized what is pastor supposed to be lines up with a lot of my gifts. And so I just kind of ended up doing that, and did for the most part really enjoy it. Preaching's a lot of fun if you're into that, and there is that kind of almost entertainer aspect that a bartender is going to have as well as a preacher. Where you're when you're on the floor, when you're behind the bar, you're on stage, right? You're doing a thing. So a lot of those things were fun. And then so going from that to being a bartender, it starts with.
You continue to do a lot of listening for sure, because at the bar you're also doing,
Yeah, I mean, you don't have, depending on the bar you're at, I didn't have a lot of the like the counseling type situations. Some bars you have more the guy crying his beer. I had a couple situations like that, but not that much. It kind of starts that there's this framework that I work with. There's a lot of things that start out good and become bad because they're misused. Money, power, sex, and alcohol. I think alcohol is great. There's actually a Bible in the verse verse in the Bible that says that God gave the wine that gladdens the hearts of men. It's biblically speaking, like wine is like this imagery, this standard image for joy. So alcohol itself is not a bad thing, but we screw it up. I mean, and working in this industry, the number of friends I saw, thinking this sweet kid, who worked back a house, and I just liked the guy. I really liked him, but seeing him come into the bar to get some paper towels because he was so drunk they fell on the pavement and just smashed his face up, and he's 22 years old. It's like, man, it's not the way to live. And so, kind of my hope was to like, hey, here's how we can drink in a way that's we're having fun, but we're not miserable. We're not doing really dumb things afterwards. And you're not living, we're not always living for the next drink. And so for me, that's what it was. Is really a place to kind of do something. I really think, again, I think alcohol is a gift from God, but doing it in a way that's appropriate. Because I love booze. Right. I love my beers. I love my wine. I love cocktails. All of it. I mean, I have a decent little cocktail cabinet at home, Right. And so did that answer what you're asking?
Oh yeah, 100%. Now, let me ask you another question. How did your loved ones, your close, relatives, family, friends, take that change, from pastorship to bartending?
All my friends are kind of within Christianity. It's a wide scope. It's kind of like you can't say all Americans are the same, right? Because you go from the Northwest where I live to Miami where you are. It's practically two different countries.
Two different,
So if you go within Christianity, you have Catholicism, and even within Catholicism, you have some really strict. You have people who are still doing pre-Vatican II, and then you have the Pentecostals who are all crazy. I mean, we're all over the board,
right?
And so a lot of my tribe, we're good with drinking. We're fine with it. It's kind of what I already said. My brother is a pretty good, he makes some pretty good cocktails himself. He's an Edward Jones advisor, and, we get to kind of compare notes. We've kind of taught my mom how to drink, My dad's a little bit more, he'd rather just have his Dr. Pepper.
Right.
So friends and family, the people I was close to were largely good with it. I remember early on, one of my earlier shifts, I saw someone from a church I used to be an assistant pastor at. She came into the bar, and I saw her eyes immediately like kind of flip to my ring finger, because she's like, what happened? Because all she could imagine is that if this guy who used to be pastor is now bartender, he must have had an affair and been kicked out of his church. Or like,
Right. It's always the worst.
Yeah. So no, I'm just doing a job. This is one of my big philosophies of life is that work is good. Working hard is a good thing. It's a noble thing. And whether you're picking up garbage at the garbage truck, or you're, running a business, bartending, whatever you're doing, working hard is noble. And so for me to be putting the hours to provide for my family, that's a noble thing. And I have more respect, obviously, now having, been behind the stick for that long, of how much work it takes, and working on your feet, and the number of miles I put in on any given day.
Right. 100%. So you continue to do this, right? Right now, the bartending, you say you're.
So actually what ended up happening, the reason why I chose bartending, aside from I wanted a job that allowed me to write, because writing is really my passion.
Right.
So I was working on a novel, and bartending just gave me that great schedule where I could go to the local coffee shop, start around 9 o'clock, write all morning, go in for my shift. By the end of my time there, I was had mainly lunch shifts. I've been there long enough, like I got to get the primo shifts. For me, what was a primo shift?
Okay.
And just kind of allowed me to write as I continued to bartend. Then COVID came, the bar was shut down, and now suddenly I'm finding myself, I'm getting the unemployment, which there's a couple things we had to get nailed out. Some of it was screwy initially, but once I got figured out, I could make a living. I couldn't do anything else, so I wrote more. I kind of found my way into ghostwriting. And what ghostwriting is basically, it's like, I've been studying how to write for 15 years, right?
Okay.
And so you've been doing entertainment, you've been doing bartending for a while. And
Right.
If you ever wanted to write like a great book about your topic, you're not going to take the 15 years to study writing, because you're doing your real job.
Right.
And so the idea of ghostwriting is, I work with someone who's like, they've got whatever experience, whether a politician, teacher, whatever, and I bring my writing, and so I help them. And so I kind of end up falling into it a bit, just like through some crazy connections.
Right.
And then I'm now able to do that full-time living.
Awesome.
As the bar started to open up, I started initially picking up shifts. As soon as my county opened, I was literally got 2 jobs that day, because again, I'm going to take care of my family. I believe in hard work. But after a little while,
at this point in time, anybody who wants to can work, most likely. Right?
Yeah, and initially it kind of took a while to get people in. A lot of people were afraid there weren't that many shifts, but this would have been last summer before we were shut down the second time.
Right.
So shortly before things got shut down the second time here, I got to where I was busy enough with my writing gigs that's like I make better money writing. And so I went to the place I was at and said, guys, I love you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, but I just have to.
Right.
Actually, I'm sorry, I do 1 shift a week, and I did that. I said that knowing someone else is going to want that shift as a Friday night shift.
By the way, I love writing myself. Now I'm not well educated in it, the way that you have been learning, for 15 years. But let me ask you something. Someone like you, a ghostwriter, normal, let's say somebody comes and says, I need you to write a book for my topic specifically, and, gives you whatever you need for that to happen. How long does it take for somebody like you to write a 120-page book, let's say, for a topic?
I would say it depends on how much they know their topic already. If they've already been doing a lot of thought and they've been making some notes, 2 months. Okay. If I'm having to coach them more through, a bit longer. Now, one of the things I do is coach other people through writing their own books. So like they want to do that because they enjoy writing, and writing's a blast. I'm not
right.
I hear you.
And I asked you for a reason, and that's to explain how the difference between an experienced writer and a non-experienced writer. I wrote my own book, but
Oh, cool.
it took me 3 years to write.
Yeah.
100 pages, 120 pages. You know what I mean? So I, I understand. I imagine how hard it is. Hard in a way, yes. I mean, like how hard it is for somebody like me that doesn't know what they're doing and watching YouTube videos all day on the subject and trying to self-educate and learn whatever.
That's awesome.
I mean, I do believe I did a good job. Actually, that is
Yeah.
what got me into doing the podcast later and getting into
Yeah.
creating courses on this subject and all that kind of stuff. But I also fell in love with writing that I did not know was something I would love so much. Yeah.
That's so cool. And now here's the thing: by doing what you've already done, first of all, 3 years. My first book was about 2 years, 2.5 years. So 3 years is great. Or my first novel was 5 years because I was bartending at the same time and it's such a different medium. I had to learn so much. That's awesome, and that's education. I mean,
Right.
there's that's so cool that you took that time to put into writing a good book and study. I mean,
No,
that's
you know what?
huge.
From having this conversation, one of the things that I would love to say to those people that are out there listening, that are bartenders or that are promoters or that that work in the industry and have a tough time right now is there are other things out there that you may be putting aside that you may be wanting to do for a long time, and this has been the perfect time for you to take do that.
Yeah.
Yes, things are now coming back to normal, and you may be going back to work 100% of the time, whatever. You will probably have some time to do those things. So anything that you can put a little time into and start doing may end up, surprising you later on and figuring out that this is the one thing I want to be doing for the rest of my life. So don't not do it. You want to be seen as the best club in town, the best restaurant in town, or the best venue in town, or you want to be seen as the best club promoter or promoting company in town. Well, there's only one way you can do this, and that is with digital marketing. You have to set the record straight with Tripod Marketing Agency. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah. And the thing about writing, is just the discipline of starting. Just if you're every day spending, half an hour chipping away at something, like actually writing, a paragraph, you're ahead of most people.
Right.
And it is a discipline. That's a trick.
Yeah.
Bartending.
So my 3 years, the main reason for the 3 years was 3 kids. I started and I said, you know what, I have to get it done before my first, my oldest was born, and then he was born, and then I had a huge pause, and then my wife was pregnant, and then when I heard it was twins coming, I was like, I gotta get this going now. That's when I accelerated and I was able to finish within the 3 years.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
So another thing that you said you love doing was traveling, right? But
Yeah.
this kind of job, has it ever been something that the travel and writing go hand in hand in a way, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
They can, yeah.
and I think bartender as well. I mean, I think you probably can find a job as a bartender in most places, right?
Yeah. And it's something I thought about, before I kind of knew how things would end up. It's easy to look back and see how everything was working out, but at the time, I had no idea. The realization, I could pick up and get a job anywhere,
Right.
because I was a pretty good bartender. Not necessarily like the best. So we're not talking like James Beard Award or anything, but good with people. I can make decent cocktails and ADHD, up to wazoo. So can do all that. But just it wasn't anything with still having two fairly young kids. They're now 16 and 18.
Right.
But I wasn't in a place where I'm going to be moving around anymore. So I enjoyed travel, but what I really see happening, my hope is that with the type of writing I do, that my dream would be to just go like, hey, let's go to Bangkok, because rent is exceedingly cheap in Bangkok, and just spend 2 months, 3 months with my wife living there and writing from there. Because if I have a good internet connection, I'm good.
Right.
I just so believe in. I love experiences. I love seeing the world. I'd rather spend money on experience than on a thing any day.
Right.
And so, yeah.
I mean,
That's why it's happening around the country a
it's
lot.
also it's definitely gonna help you with the writing 100%. You know, any of those
Absolutely.
experiences, especially the novels, and that's one thing I admire um, a lot is people that coming up with ideas that from
Mhm.
zero completely and
Yeah.
putting them out there.
That's
Yeah, it's
it's
amazing.
it's an absolute trip. Being writing a novel in some ways is one of the bizarre things you can do because you're creating a completely fabricated world, but it becomes very real to you.
Right.
When I was working on a particular scene, and I poured myself some Irish whiskey, and I'm sipping on it, and as I'm writing, I'm feeling guilty because the character whose voice I was writing in would not approve of me drinking, and
Oh
so
wow.
I'm feeling guilty for drinking. It's like
Right.
that's
Right.
crazy.
That's crazy.
Uh,
You know that
it's,
the drinking side you mentioned. I was going to ask you about mocktails and drinks without alcohol, because when you mentioned being a pastor before, and I have lost actually a lot of clientele to Christianship. The ones
to
that I
what?
guess to becoming Christians that don't drink,
Oh,
that do the
yeah,
extreme to the extreme, or other
right.
religions or reasons. But after I've been doing this for like 26 years now, and
Wow.
I keep running into more and more people that are you know drinking a lot less than they used to.
Yeah.
In the next couple of days, I have to do a presentation in Russia for talking about the subject of hospitality and where things are going in nightlife industry, etc. And one of the subjects that I've been researching a lot on is the fact that a lot of people in the new generation drinks a lot less than us.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been seeing that. Yeah.
our generation is trying to stop drinking a little bit more. The the pandemic, although we did drink a lot more at home, uh,
Mhm.
we didn't end up drinking more in general because we would drink more
Right.
going out and all those kinds of things. You don't get as crazy at home as you do when you're at an event or whatever.
Right.
So a lot is happening there, and I actually thought maybe that's the kind of bartending he does. He's not non-alcoholic, but you already mentioned that has nothing to do with it. That the fact is the opposite completely. But how do you
Right.
feel
Yeah.
about non-alcoholic drinks as a bartender who loves his booze?
Uh, if I could find one that was good, I'd be fine with it.
Right.
The taste is huge. So a lot of times I'll try to do stuff that's a bit lighter. Like my favorite thing is an Americano done with a pretty heavy on the soda, just because you just put a splash of the Campari and the sweet vermouth in there in a fair amount of club soda, and you have a very tasty drink.
Right.
But I've had some like the non-alcoholic gins, and oh, good luck. Hey, awesome that you're trying, but
Right.
it just wasn't any good.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah, because I
you
do
know,
hear that a lot of the big companies like the Diageos of the world are, and when it comes to beer, the InBevs and all that, they're talking about, having all kinds of products with non-alcohol. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna get them right at some point. From what I haven't tasted much, to be honest
yeah,
with you, but I do get a lot of the new generation is more into fitness. They're eating healthier.
yeah,
They're not friends of the hangover as we used to be.
yeah,
For us, a hangover was like part of it, part of life. It's
right,
like I'm a real man now.
right,
I don't know but things are changing. I don't know. Also,
yeah,
there's another part that may have to do a little bit with the growth in the cannabis world, and
mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of
Sure.
being replaced one for the other, CBD products and that kind of stuff. But I guess the Navy people that come to you guys are not the ones asking for non-alcoholic drinks at this moment in time.
No, they certainly were still drinking. I mean, I would love to see. There's this sweet spot between having fun and going too far,
Mm-hmm.
and it's trying to stay in that sweet spot that if I, for me myself, I know if I can stay there, I'm enjoying life a lot more.
Right.
And it's kind of, if I can kind of moderate, just I don't have to be pounding them. I can be choosing I'm a big beer drinker, but maybe not all of them have to be double IPAs. Choose something with a little bit of a lower ABV just so I can enjoy it longer.
Right.
And kind of a big thing, and this is preaching a little bit, but I don't think it is. And that is that the problem with alcohol is not alcohol itself. It's when it's used too far and it makes us miserable. We start being abusive. We get in a car. It's when it's destructive. Right. And so if any extent to which I could help people drink in a moderate way so they're enjoying themselves more, not less. We have this idea that if God says, don't do X, Y, Z, it's because X, Y, Z must be really fun. Well, no, it's because X, Y, Z is actually going to make you miserable. Right. So stop before you get to X, Right. And that was one of my things even as a pastor was, Christians within my circle were starting to drink is becoming more and more acceptable. And it's like, okay, so I need to be teaching these guys how to drink in an appropriate manner because their friends aren't going to be teaching them how to be appropriate.
Right.
They're going to be teaching them to get wasted. And, I also started drinking when I was a little bit older, I'd say like 25. So that kind of helped in that I was not quite as inclined to enjoy the hangover. I'm not saying I never got, not saying it never happened,
right?
But I didn't. It wasn't happening every week because I hated it and my wife hated it even more.
Right.
And so, as a bartender, my belief that the bartender's basic job, this is the hospitality world, is our basic job is to help people have fun.
Right.
And that's it. And it's a good job. That's kind of a fun job to have.
Are bartenders, in your eyes, responsible for the excess? Meaning, somebody's drinking too much. Should they be the ones to stop them?
It's such a tricky thing. I mean, of course, you have the legalities. I don't know about Florida, but in Washington, there's over-service laws, and if you
right
serve someone who appears to be intoxicated, blah blah blah, you can get into trouble. It's a tricky thing. It's like, okay, let's say like a internet salesman. Let's say you install internet cable. You could go to someone's house and set them up for internet, and they could use that internet to do all sorts of illegal things. They're wrong. They're damaging, whatever it is. Are you responsible for it? Well, I don't think so.
Right.
If you enter an industry where there's no way to do it in a way that's appropriate, I honestly don't think there's any really good way to be a pimp. If you're going to be taking advantage of people, that job right away is bad. If that's the entirety of the job, no. But if your job is one that can be misused, that doesn't necessarily make the job bad. So as a bartender, I believe that people are going to make the choices they make, and I will try to, if I'm given the opportunity, I may say something. And of course, we all know the tricks for slowing down service and, kind of waiting a little while to get back to the table and all that stuff. But I remember early as a bartender watching this gal. She'd been off cigarettes for 3-4 weeks, and the bar sold cigarettes. And I watched her talk herself back into smoking, and everyone around her was like, "Don't do it, don't do it." And she was like, I could tell she was going to, because she decided she's going to, and she was going to. There's nothing I could do. I hated it. But it was, in the end, it's her choice. She's an adult, and so it's tricky. And I have to look for the opportunities where I may have an opportunity to kind of hey, by the way. But a lot of times you don't have that. They're not looking for that, and it just,
And how do you feel about drinking on the job? And I mean this job, not any other.
Yeah. In my state, it is illegal. So that kind of makes that easy. I mean. There's when we had our bid, there's a big called the Oyster Run. It's this big, massive motorcycle rally. So we kind of had a tradition of doing shot for net, before the bikers showed up. So I skirted that occasionally, but in general, even if it's not illegal, it's I want to be able to do the best job I can. And the clarity I need to be able to interact the way I have to interact. I mean, how it is. You have to be able I had to be able to read a customer within 3 seconds to know, do they want me to tease them? Do they want to be treated with respect? I need all of my wits about me to do the best job to take care of them. Right. And when I watch people say, I'm a better bartender when I'm drinking. No, I'm working with you. I one time had to kick my manager off the floor because she was drunk.
Yeah, I've heard
you guys sit down.
I've heard people say I can drive better when I'm drunk. It's
Yeah.
You can definitely not make the right decision, just by saying that alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So for me, I think there is a legal aspect, but for me, I want to be on top of my game.
Right.
And I mean, I guess people think that maybe it helps you like be more friendly or be more open or less scared of people. You can do that without the booze. I mean,
Okay.
really, it's just learning to be open and to be yourself and all that sort of stuff. So that's my take.
Right.
But if someone else just thinks otherwise, I'm not gonna not gonna
Correct.
judge them. That's their call.
Correct.
But just
Correct.
don't get too much on your shift.
100%. All right. So it's been half an hour. I don't want to, take any more of your time, but if you see
Fun
time
stuff.
flies by when you're having a nice conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people go find you, bring you some tulips, and go have a drink?
Absolutely. So my website is joshkelley.inc. My name, JoshKelley.inc, INK, like the stuff you write with. And you're welcome to come visit me there. So I do, as I said, ghostwriting, also like coaching people through the writing process. So like one of my clients is really big, has a podcast that's really big within his area, and he wants to write his own book, but I'm meeting with him occasionally to I'm good at helping him to develop the structure, because you know how it is when you first approach a book, it's so like huge, it seems impossible to do.
Right.
But if you have someone who's done it a while, I can kind of help people, guide them through that process. And
Right.
so yeah.
Awesome. I'm actually in the process of thinking of doing a new edition of this.
Nice.
Because it has been 3.5 years or so that it came out already, and I am also translating into Spanish very soon.
Cool.
I don't know if you do
I
that
can't
part.
help with that. My French is very meager.
All right, hey guys, thank you so much, Josh, and
Absolutely.
guys, do
Julio,
not.
thank you so much.
No problem. Do not forget to get my book on Amazon and go visit us at nightlife.university. Follow me at the Nightlife Entrepreneur on Instagram and all social medias. See you guys next week.